Easy explain the philosophy of Leibniz on the ultimate origination of things from 1697. So again, we're going to start by looking at how Leibniz continues to develop his principle of sufficient reason, or PSR, in this essay. This is taking place a few years now after his discourse on metaphysics. And just a quick refresher, I think a good overview of how to sum this up so far in his philosophy is that in his essay on contingency, which is from 11 years earlier, Leibniz says that nothing exists without there being a greater reason for it to exist than for it not to exist. Right? Hopefully by now you're starting to get the hang of what he really means with that. Essentially, that everything happens for a reason. If something exists, there's a great reason for it to exist, especially more so than for it not existing. Just like last time as well, he doesn't make any explicit PSR statements here, but it is present because it's definitely informing his best possible world arguments or his BPW arguments. And here he really starts to begin to flesh those out. So we're actually going to take some time to go through them. Now he furthers his BPW argument here in the origination of things. So Leibniz says that not only is the world physically, or if you prefer metaphysically, most perfect, that is, that the series of things that has been brought forth is the one in which there is in actuality the greatest amount of reality. But it also follows that the world is morally most perfect, since moral perfection is in reality physical perfection with respect to minds. Same passage, just broken up here. I'm going to continue. From this, it follows that the world is not only the most admirable machine, but insofar as it is made up of minds, it is also the best republic, the republic through which minds derive the greatest possible happiness and joy, in which their physical perfection consists. Let's move on to the next passage before we break it down. He also says here in his essay on Origination of Things, but you ask, don't we experience quite the opposite in this world? For the worst often happens to the best, and not only innocent beasts but also humans are injured and killed, even tortured. In the end, the world appears to be a certain confused chaos rather than a thing ordered by some supreme wisdom, especially if one takes note of the conduct of the human race. I confess that it appears this way at first glance, but a deeper look at things forces us to quite the contrary view. From those very considerations which I brought forward, it is obvious a priori that everything, even minds, is of the highest perfection there can be. So what is Leibniz doing here? Well, he's setting up this dialectic where in this latter green one, he's actually considered the perspective that Voltaire is going to take on in Candide. Right? That if we look at the world, how can it be the best possible world? There's awful things happening all the time, everywhere, to everybody. But also, if we go back a little bit, he's also forwarding this claim that across the levels here, the world is a perfect place. If you look at it in terms of morals, the physical reality, that it's made of minds, and the minds have created this republic that we all live in, he is setting it up that, again, coming from God, this is the best of all possible worlds to be living in. We will revisit this in the next playlist episode in this series, but for now, we're going to move on to how he covers monads in this essay. So again, just a refresher of what he means by monads so far. Again, this is taken from his Article 9 of Discourse on Metaphysics. Again, this was also 11 years earlier. But Leibniz says that every substance is like a complete world and like a mirror of God or of the whole universe, with each one expresses in its own way. So again, this idea that monads are little representations of the whole. They're kind of magical little atomic little entities. They kind of mirror God. They mirror the whole universe, or everything contained in an infinitesimal point. And the universe is also made up of these things. So again, moving on into how they're expressed here in Origination, not explicitly addressed or furthered, but in this case, they become the fundamental things that ultimately make up the best possible world, right? So we're getting these monads as almost like little units of perfection that are being used to build the world that we live in here. More on this in the next video as we move into the next essay, but for now, I hope this helps.